Greetings, greetings, greetings. Hello, beautiful people. How are you all doing today? Welcome, welcome, welcome to another informative and educational episode with Sista Yaa. Today we have a very special guest. Dr. Harnet is going to come on and talk to us and grace us all with her beautiful presence and discuss doing business in Africa. I hope y'all ready to get some good information. If you got any questions, get them together while we have her with us today. All right. Let's get her in the studio. Hello, Dr. Harnet. How are you?
Hi, Sista Yaa. I'm very, very well. How are you? Great to see you.
You too. Doing great. I'm doing good under the circumstances. I am managing. I'll be glad when this thing lets up because I'm ready to move around and do something and I can't do anything. So how are you handling it over there?
I hear you. No, actually, I'm great especially I'm so grateful because compared to a lot of other people, I'm doing good. Yeah. So I always put it in perspective.
Good. And before we move on, I have to ask, how are the children?
Very well, thank you. I've been homeschooling since last year, and a lot of people are like, why are you homeschooling? And guess what? Everyone is joining the boat.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, same here. I've been doing it since we got back from Ghana, and so it's no different for me. It's the same thing. But absolutely. But I'm an advocate of homeschooling anyway, so.
Fantastic. Great to see that you and the children are healthy. Fantastic.
Yeah, we're fine. So thank you for joining us today. And before we get into our discussion, and I told you, I don't like to do like I ask question, you answer. I don't like to do that. I like the conversation to just flow organically, and based on what you say, then we have further discussion. So. Before we get into that, I think most of our people everybody who don't know who Dr. Harnet is. Everybody knows who Dr. Harnet is. But in case we have somebody out there who doesn't know, can you please give us a little bit of background about you, who you are, and how you ended up with the African Jumpstart business and all of that, and then we'll get into it.
Oh, thank you for the very, very kind introduction. Well, not everyone knows me yet, so I'm happy to make an introduction. My name is Dr. Harnet. I come originally from Eritrea. That's where my roots are, my African heritage. I've worked in the Greater Horn of Africa region since 1999. So that is, over 2 decades. I've worked in an international development context. But then when I heard about entrepreneurship, investment, the whole Africa rising narrative, and I had my little children, I said, that's the path forward for Africa. Out of that charitable work, really empowering the continent in regards to creating wealth on the continent, and many more can follow in those footsteps. So I thought it was a much more empowering concept. And I want to start my own business. And guess what? I didn't know where to start, how to start, what to do. What are my first steps? What are the risks? A lot of the questions that a lot of people have. And so I made it kind of my business to find out. And it all started on a personal level. I was kind of obsessed doing the research, the small print, because there was no one out there guiding us what to do. And and that was how my business was born in 2014.
Okay, beautiful. And so, yes, what Dr. Harnet does is help you all who are interested in doing business in African countries. She provides you with a little bit of guidance, training, some ideas, coaching, all of that, so that because doing business in Africa is not the same as, doing business in the UK or here in the United States. It's a whole different thing on it in and of it, but can be very profitable and very rewarding if you know what to do. And Dr. Harnet, I'm an advocate of people of African descent, specifically doing business, considering Africa as a place to do business, because I don't think it's going to be a lot different when we get past the COVID-19. But prior to COVID-19, that's where the emerging markets were. That's where the great opportunities were to go, get in on the ground level, and reap the economic advantage, economic benefit of getting in on the ground level, which we don't have a lot of opportunities to do in the West, but in Africa, which is emerging market, that opportunity exists. So I was connected to you by a sister, Treve, who has gone through your boot camp, and I know brother Maurice, who helps you and has traveled with you to Morocco and assist you. So I have attended some of the classes. You offer sometimes the free courses online to people just to give them an idea of things, and I've been in there, and I think what you're doing is wonderful. So some of the questions a lot of people ask is, what can they do in Africa? What does Africa need? Like what businesses, what do you tell people who come to you who don't have any idea, but they want to do something?
Right. Wonderful question. That's exactly right up there in my sleeve. So I think one of the most important aspects is not to make emotional decisions. That is what we as the African diaspora are very prone to. We kind of like, oh, I love whatever, Ghana, Senegal, or any other country. I love it and I want to be there. I'm going to start planting food. I'm going to live off the land. And very often we just feel like a personal attachment to a certain country. However, I think it's very important that when we make business decisions, we need to make informed decisions. So the first thing I would ask is, which industry are you interested in? Maybe that's where you have your expertise, your track record, your career has been in that sector, you have a passion for that, an interest. Now, once you know your industry, select some of the best countries for that industry. And so that already takes out, because not every country in Africa, we have 54 markets, will be the best country for the kind of skill or industry that you have or industry that you want to get started in. And the second thing I say is start with countries that are relatively low in risk and high in opportunity. So I know you are, for example, assisting people, right, with the project to go to Ghana or Senegal. These are so-called low risk, high opportunity countries, which is a perfect category because risk is generally much lower than in other countries. So once you have kind of set a framework of where you're going and why you're going, and it is a good match with your industry or your skill set, then you really need to narrow down on your business model, because Sista Yaa, once you start, okay, what does Africa have? Guess what? It has and needs almost everything. There is opportunity left, right, and center. I'm telling you. So once you step on the ground, and you've been on the ground, right? I mean, you will see opportunity everywhere. And it can actually be confusing and overwhelming when you become reactive towards people who are making suggestions for partnerships. They have opportunities because you don't know where to turn. And so I would say start with your interest, your skill set, your industry, and then look at the opportunities in that particular industry for that particular skill set. So you can actually go out there into Africa, possibly doing your research or researching about it online in regards to a specific skill and a specific industry and a specific business model. That is much easier to do. So that was like, I mean, I teach this for 16 hours in my live bootcamp, but I try to wrap it up in a couple of sentences.
Yes.
So those would be your first steps.
Wonderful. Thank you. Okay. So another question is, do you recommend like partnerships? Those in the diaspora who maybe have some resources uh, with somebody on the continent who don't have capital. They may have land, say they have access to land, but they don't have access to capital to mechanize that land for commercial farming and something like that. I mean, that's just an idea I'm giving. But do you recommend partnering with people already on the ground, the continental Africans and the diasporans coming together to form these partnerships, so that one, it helps our people on the continent get the resources, the financial resources that they need, and also it helps us on this side to have businesses uh, that somebody is already, handling, running while we are here. Sorry, my phone. So
Yeah.
that when we do decide that we're going to leave, we have a business going. What do you think about that?
Yes. I mean, this is a very important question. And generally, the answer is absolutely yes. There's great benefit in forming local partnerships in Africa. But the crucial point here is you
I'm on the
have
internet.
to form the right partnerships. All right. So very often, not every kind of partnership is the right partnership for you. And what we often see, again, I'm coming back to the emotional decision that we're meeting someone, I mean, it may be a relative, a family member, it may be someone we met on the plane and we're making these decisions based on, okay, I've met someone, that someone seems like a nice person, they're interested just like me, and let's do something together. And that's not the right way to start,
Right.
because that person may be enthusiastic in the moment, that person may see an opportunity in you, especially if it's, for example, a poor farmer or trader, and they see an opportunity in you, and they may actually not be able to fulfill what they promise. So what I think is very, very important for us to recognize is, how do we establish reliable and professional partnerships in Africa? And that is actually a huge topic I'm teaching on, where I have a whole strategy how to go about it, but I don't know how much time we have. But
Right.
but the reliable and the professional partnerships are not created by people that we bump into and we're all excited about the opportunity and we think, oh, let's do this together. That's not the way. We have seen too many disappointments coming out of that, and a lot of money being lost too, a lot of time, enthusiasm, and money being lost. So how to build these partnerships the right way locally, that is part of the self-education we need to engage in.
Now, do you have like your own database that you connect people with? Do you have that? Is that something that people can come to Dr. Harnet and get access to, people that you've already vetted that need partners?
Yes, well, in my inner circle of members and clients, we have the Africa Business Academy, where we, work together on an ongoing basis. People are actually building their African businesses in real time. So there, absolutely, I make referrals. I introduce people to the network I have where I can. Also, people connecting or working among each other. But even that is very limited, in terms of the connections I have in which
Yeah.
countries and cross industries. So there is actually a strategy. So to give you, maybe because I've been very general, so to give you concrete tips, I call a group this strategic partners, and then there's what I call direct partners. So the strategic partners are not the kind of partners where you would form like a business relationship, but strategic partners are, for example, government offices or industry associations. So let's say, I don't know, let's say you want to start leather processing. There's an association for leather, leather in the leather manufacturing, or cocoa. You want to start building, your own cocoa or chocolate empire. Like there is a board for cocoa farmers, on association, a related association. Now, these industry associations are the perfect starting point to kind of introduce yourself, to let them know what you're bringing into the country. And then they have members, companies that are already in business, and they can refer you to people that are serious in
Right.
your industry. So that is just one quick point. But as you can see, it is very important that you connect with people who are seriously already in business, and who can also match you in regards to the capacity that you're looking for.
Okay. All right. Now, what are I'm big on agriculture.
Right.
I believe that agriculture is the, and I may be biased, but one of the best industries to get in because over 7 billion people on the planet, everybody has to eat, right? So that's one thing we know everybody has to do. But you don't necessarily need to be a farmer to be in agriculture, because there's also, I think a lot of people don't think about the added value that we already have a lot of farmers. So what else, what other things do the farmers need to operate more efficiently? So these are the things I think a lot of people don't think about. Okay, well, they're already doing this. What can I do to add value to what they're already doing to make it more efficient? Like transportation, moving food from the farm to the markets, or let's say refrigeration, helping them to store food longer so that it don't spoil before it is able to reach market. And this is something that even myself, I just started thinking about things that way. Like, okay, this is already there. What else can we do to add to it? We don't have to go and compete with the farmers. We can see what the farmers need and add to that.
I would absolutely agree. Sister Yaa. So the agricultural sector in Africa is the second fastest growing sector, or going to be the second fast growing sector over the next 2 decades. That is following the largest sector, which is fast moving consumer goods. Now, fast moving consumer goods, that's where food items, so processed agricultural produce, comes in. So when you are kind of connecting these sectors, the two biggest sectors, the fast-moving consumer goods sector and the agricultural sector, and they're the two large growing ones, you're absolutely in an era of, or going to be in an era of growth. And as you have mentioned, it is actually so relevant because first, everyone has to eat every single day, be it on the continent or outside of Africa. Second, it is becoming so much more relevant with COVID now, because we've seen so many people go out of business, but guess what? The food industry continues no matter what. So there's also like a huge aspect now in regards to, wow, that is actually great industry to reduce your risk in when there should, if there should be another pandemic. Well, we're in the middle of one, but if there should be another one, or this one doesn't end. And you're absolutely right. There's so many ways you can come in with so many different budgets. So as you have said, for example, farmers do have the land and they also have the knowledge, but the knowledge that they have also just refers to traditional crops. They do, for example, not have the knowledge for crops that the hospitality industry needs. Also a very important sector in Africa. So let's talk, like, herbs, certain herbs, or mushrooms, strawberries, berries in general. These are kind of crops that traditional farmers do not planned. However, they're hugely important if we want like a competitive tourism sector in Africa. So then there is, for example, machinery and machinery rental. Then there is packaging and the design of products, the manufacturing, the processing, the marketing. I mean, the trading, you name it. There's so many different aspects around this agricultural sector and the fast-moving consumer goods sector. There's one sister, she's the CEO of Alaska, Tanzania, and she moved from the UK back to Tanzania. And what she has done, for example, she has simply collected the food that farmers are already growing in her country, and all she does is aggregating it and packaging it and then she's putting it into local supermarkets. Guess what? Because the farmers do not even have those skills or the access to packaging and to branding and to go to supermarkets and trying to sell those goods. Those are only individual commercial farmers, but the majority of farmers do not have the skill, do not have the access. And that's a very simple model. You buy from them or aggregate from them, you package it, and it's ready to be put in supermarkets locally, regionally, and at one point even internationally. So much to say about this, but I share your passion for agriculture. I've got one too.
Oh,
so absolutely, yes.
Yeah, because as you're talking, I'm sitting here and my little brain is like the little mouse on the wheel because I'm thinking about, what we need to be doing ourselves, with our pineapple farm and our cocoa and all these things. So, when people ask you how much, money they need, what's too small of an amount to get started doing business in Africa? Is it going to cost them a lot of money to get started? What do you say?
Well, the answer is no, if you understand to find the right business model. So very often people are just, I want to do solar, I want to do manufacturing, they come, or I want to do real estate. They come up with business models that may be very capital intensive. But what is to be understood, even in those sectors, by the way, could be business models that are not capital intensive. So let's say, for example, you want to go in real estate. Now, if you want to start constructing affordable housing, you need a lot of money. But if you're saying, for example, all right, there are so many people in real estate out there already, let me put a conference together about the real estate market in Ghana. Let me put an online platform together about the apartments that are fashionable for young people who want to buy. So within that sector, you have business models that are of low capital. And then there are other industries generally, like tourism, like agriculture, what we've just mentioned, where you can actually get started with low capital. You could put together a tour, and putting that tour together will not cost you much. You just need to be creative and also offer something that not everyone else is offering. And then people will pay you for the tour. So you can rent minivans in the beginning to get the tourists around. You don't need to buy your own van. So you can actually really start with a very low capital. In fact, Sister Yaa, let me share one story. Because one thing I also teach is you could start with training. Whatever skill you have, you could start a training company. Now, when you start a training company in an African context, your assets is your knowledge. So you do not need to invest in land or construction or purchase equipment or anything. And what you can do is you need to find the right industry, businesses who need your training, companies. That's important because companies would be able to pay you. And what you can actually do is you can package this. And one of our clients in the academy, she has done that when we went to Ghana. She's African American. She had never been to Africa before. I mean, let alone, Ghana. She has never been to the continent. But we prepared like a training package that she would offer to hotels. And within a week, she had the expression of interest of 2 hotels doing the training for their staff. And one of the hotels was one of the top hotels in Accra. And she actually, on day 6, being in the country, being on the continent for the very first time, she trained 30 of their staff. And I'm not going to mention the hotel, but it's one of the top hotels in Accra. And she mentioned she trained them, and the HR department was quite impressed, and then offered her to discuss, going forward with that and offer her a contract. Look, all she has spent was her plane ticket to get to Ghana, and and the hotel. And it can actually happen quite fast. I think important is that we self-educate. about the business models that are available, the business models that are high or capital intensive and also of high risk, because there are a lot of business models that are of high risk in Africa. They will cost you more money, more time, and the risk of failure is larger. And then there are business models that are low in risk. They're not capital intensive. You can start on a shoestring budget and you can actually get momentum very fast. And the training business is one of the best ones for the African diaspora. One among many, but one I love because you simply just need to come with your skill set. Then you need to understand how to package it and to whom to offer it. And the packaging, Sista Yaa, needs to happen in an African context, in a local context. If you package it, I mean like promote, market. You know, what are you saying when you meet the HR director of the hotel? You don't want to come with your an American context of how you're going to pitch it. You need to understand the challenges these hotels have locally, and you need to show how you can be a solution to those challenges locally. You see, once I start talking, I can't finish. I could go on and on and on about it. I have so much to say, but
and they want to hear you. You should see I don't know if you see the comments. They are really following you, and the information is very helpful because you help people think about things in a way that they wouldn't normally be thinking about it. So, it's good. I would like for you to share that one story I heard you speak on about a sister who had moved to Kenya and opened up this beautiful furniture store. You know the story? And then she wasn't getting any, her business wasn't doing very well. And she approached you. Can you tell that story so to help people start thinking about, things in a different way?
I'm so happy to hear, that kind of stayed with you because it's one of my favorite stories to tell. Yes. Okay. I love to tell a story. So basically the reason why I tell the story, let me give you some context. It is one example of, possible failure, but it's very important that we share these stories to see how we can actually do it better and succeed. So the context here is that it is very important for you to understand the power of positioning. How do you position yourself as a newcomer? No one knows you, no one knows your product. How do you position yourself successfully? And I believe that most businesses in Africa fail, including of African entrepreneurs on the continent, because they just copy everything that's out there and they do not understand the power of positioning. So here's the story. I was sitting in a news cafe in Nairobi, Kenya, and a sister approached me. I was sitting at my table, working away on my laptop, and she says, I heard you help African businesses to succeed. And the reason why she heard it is because I was actually visiting her shop next door, but the owner, was not in at the time. It was her assistant. She had a beautiful furniture shop next door, really selling exquisite furniture. And so I was in awe. And then, I entered the shop a few days earlier. I spoke to her assistant, and her assistant must have told her about me because a few days later, she's showing up at my table. So I invite her to sit down at my table, and she says, look, I'm a member of the diaspora. I've come back to Kenya 3 years ago, and I have opened this furniture business, and I'm struggling. I'm struggling so much. In fact, I fear I have to close the business because we have cash flow issues. So I asked her, first of all, what have you done to promote this? So first of all, what you need to understand, she has this furniture shop somewhere in a mall in Nairobi on the first floor. And she's hoping that people will come to the mall and just buy away her furniture. And that is what many do. They follow traditional ways, or simply we do not know better because we have not been educated in this. And then they hope that customers will simply come, show up and buy. Now that is hope business. It doesn't happen most of the time, and it didn't happen for her. So then I asked her, what else she has done in terms of marketing. She said, yeah, when my numbers went down, I put together a marketing leaflet, and I was going around in the neighborhood, handing it out to house owners. And it's actually quite a good neighborhood. It's like a commercial neighborhood. And but even after that leaflet project, no one really came to buy my furniture. What shall I do? And so, interestingly, at that point, I had opened already a website of a high-end luxurious real estate developer company in Nairobi. And the reason why I had it open was I became aware of it during my flight from Frankfurt to Nairobi, and I'm like, wow, amazing high-end residential property. And I was so amazed, and I showed her and I said, look, these guys, luxurious real estate developers, guess what? They need showrooms. They need showrooms so they can, throughout the project, show potential buyers, this is what your house will look like. Now, in order to have these luxurious showrooms, guess what? They're traveling to South Africa, they're traveling to Dubai, they're traveling to China to get the furniture. And I've spoken to someone in Ghana who said, we need to go all the way to South Africa to get that furniture. We can't get it here in Ghana. And so I told her, you should not be the lady in the mall selling furniture. You should be targeting these high-end, luxurious real estate developers, and you should become the go-to person for their furniture needs, so they do not need to travel outside the country. And then she goes to me, oh, wow, this is amazing. I am actually an interior designer. And I'm like, here you go. You're an interior designer. Now you're not just selling the furniture to them or renting it to them. You can now actually do the entire interior design for their showrooms too. You can now sell a project package to them for thousands of dollars. And she was just amazed. And she said, I wished I had met you 3 years ago. Just tell me, where do I find these real estate developers? And I said, expos, conferences, billboards throughout Nairobi's high-end areas, the internet. Research it, knock doors, go to these real estate expos, and you will find really high-end clients. Don't become the lady sitting in the mall waiting for people to buy her furniture. Become the go-to showroom expert in Kenya, so that is the power of positioning. And I can tell you so many stories from the continent where the product actually is great, or the skill set is great, the passion, everything is in place. But what's completely not understood is how to position yourself and to whom to sell to.
Right. And that story stuck with me because it's a powerful story, and it made so much sense. It was like when I was listening to you tell it, I'm like even a light bulb came on for me, and I'm pretty sure it came off for that sister too. Like, oh, why didn't I think of that? So that's great. They're asking for your information for your class, Dr. Harnet.
Right. I think the best is I would give my website. You can find me on africajumpstart.com. It's africajumpstart.com. And I have a YouTube channel as well. But in africajumpstart.com, you can find the classes. And, there's free classes as well, some free webinars. And I focus mainly on this at this point. We work tightly with the Africa Business Academy. So these are people who are, really working on their business models in Africa. And I and other mentors, we're guiding them in concrete terms, or who are working on their investments. And the other program I have is how to import from Africa. So this is for people, number one, who are not ready yet to relocate to the continent, but they want to become part of that whole success story renaissance of Africa, or who are actually looking as the importing model, also as a business model, very valid for intra-African trade, because intra-African trade is also growing at a very fast rate. And we had a huge success story, for example, of a Nigerian who was importing tea from Rwanda to Nigeria. And this is not among my members. That was a story that was told to me by the manufacturers in Rwanda. And he started with a small shipment, samples, and then he got interest from the petrol station, the total petrol station in Nigeria. He put the Rwandan tea in the shelves there. He got one of those petrol stations, the total stations, and there are 120 or 140 of them across Nigeria. That's it. It's almost like a passive income stream. He had the contract.
Yeah.
That's it. And the tea just goes, and he gets the commission each time. I mean, there's so many business models that are powerful, and people are simply not aware of them.
Yes, yes. So for them to find you on YouTube, just to put in Dr. Harnet.
That's it. That's it. And we'll host you. Okay. We'll host you soon, Sister Yaa. So you can absolutely, yes.
All right. And so let's I know you have to go in a little bit. Can we touch on the exporting or importing sector? Because I do get a lot of people ask me about importing, exporting. So can you give a little bit of advice or information on that business model?
Yeah. No, I hear you. I also get a lot of expression of interest in this regard. So here's a few important aspects for you to keep in mind. Generally speaking, it is much more powerful of a business model if you're thinking exporting out of Africa, or if you're in the US, importing from Africa into the US, as compared to the other way around. That means, for example, sending American product into Africa. Why? Because African governments, by and large, want to increase their exports. So more of the foreign currency comes into the market, and they want to cut down their imports. And that means what we will see, and already we are seeing, is that export regulations, so exporting out of Africa, or again, if you're sitting in the US, importing from Africa into the US, that is a much more sustainable business model, because that is a model that African governments, by and large, are supporting. While as to the contrary, the import is being made more difficult, more expensive, more difficult, new regulations that can inhibit. So that's one point. So always think out of Africa. The second then is that you need to think, okay, where are you based? If you're in the US, for example, think of products that are high in demand in the US that Africa can provide. It could be coffee, tea, gluten-free cassava flour. I mean, you guys in the US are so behind with that, gluten-free.
Yeah.
Because I have a gluten intolerance, I always struggle when I'm in the US. Even Whole Foods, you hardly have anything. So that is a huge market. And guess what? Africa has the gluten-free cassava flour. In fact, that flour is one of the best flours to bake with as compared to other flours that are there in the market. If you are, however, on the continent of Africa, you're then either also into intra-African trade. So again, what can another country in Africa provide that you want to trade? Or you could be sitting in an African country and you want to export yourself. Maybe you're growing something, you're in agriculture and you want to export. Here is important for everyone to realize: always choose a product that you can sell locally, regionally, and internationally. Why? Because when you start out early, you will always start locally. You cannot have in the beginning, as a startup, you cannot have the quality, nor the quantity, nor the experience to go straight away into export. I mean, that's very rare. Or let's say that is a big step to take. Much better is that you really test your products, the quality, the packaging, the marketing, everything locally. Locally, your best clients are other companies, the hospitality industry, hotels, restaurants, corporate offices. Those are your best, or supermarkets, high-end supermarkets. Those are your best clients locally. They are also the best clients regionally. So African country next door, for example. And then you think internationally. That comes when you have the experience, the quality, the quantity, and the track record, and you know what you're doing. Then you can go to the international markets. And therefore, it is so important that you look for a product to grow that has a demand locally, regionally, and internationally. And shall I give you a great tip where to find that?
Yes.
Ask your people, because I can't see any. It looks like we're alone, the two of us. I can't see any comments.
No, they're there. They're there.
So let's ask them. Do they want like a secret? Sorry, go ahead.
Do you see over there where it says comments? It says private and public.
Oh, right. I need to tap over.
So
Okay. Oh, wonderful. Yeah. They're actually, right. I see some of my members as well. Hi, Andy. Fantastic. So let me hear, do you want me to share a great secret, how you find one of the best crops that you should plant if you're into agricultural production? Absolutely. Okay, fantastic. So here's one of the best ways to do it when you're on the continent. And that is to, you may be traveling there for a trip or visit or something. And that is speak to the restaurant managers of high-end restaurants or of hotels. That's number one. I do that all the time. And what I ask is, okay, thank you so much, dear restaurant manager, for talking to me, for taking time to speak to me. I quickly do my introduction, 2 lines to get him, stick with me for a few minutes. And then I say, I really would love to hear, what food products or produce, agricultural produce, do you get very easily locally? What food products are locally available, but you have challenge with the supply chain? And what food products are hard to get? You need to import them. Oh my God. It's like they will come with so much information. It's like the best market research on like a rapid kind of research from the people who know. And if you do that with 5 or 10 restaurant managers and restaurant or head chefs, the amount of information is amazing. And guess what? They're going to tell you the kind of stuff that other farmers do not know. And therefore, you can tap into a very powerful niche. And you could actually, going back to the power of positioning, you could actually position yourself as the go-to expert or farmer for the hotel industry, because you're the guy or the lady, who the farmer who plants what the hotel industry needs and they cannot get locally. And so that is powerful positioning, and the same with supermarkets. Oh, again, this is like when you visit, I do that all the time. You will find me in the shelves of Accra, Nairobi, Kigali, and I'm like going back and forth. I'm taking, I think I may have caught the attention of some shopkeepers. What is she doing? She's not shopping. What does she have in mind? You'll find me inside the freezer and taking pictures of shelves and looking. And the information you find in these shelves, again, is amazing, because you look at what's there, what's not there, how is it packaged, and where can I see a clear gap? And then when you walk into one of the high-end supermarkets in Accra, ShopRite, which is a South African brand, and you look into the freezer, and then you will find French fries, I think you say in America, okay, chips, French fries, frozen, all right? And guess what? Imported from France. Now, how difficult is it to cut potatoes into pieces and then have them frozen? Right? They're imported from France. You go then further through the supermarkets of Accra, you will find all that fruit juice, the tropical juice, and guess what? Imported from Lebanon, from France, from the Netherlands, from the UK, from Egypt. At least Egypt is intra-African trade. But can you hear? These are tropical fruit juices. France, the UK, the Netherlands, and Lebanon do not have these tropical fruits, but they're getting exported out
Right.
of Africa, and then the value and the money is added somewhere else, and then they're going to be imported back into into Africa.
Back.
And among all these juices that I saw in a crab, there was one Ghanaian brand, and that hurts. You then go towards the chocolate and cocoa shelf in Accra, which is this, Ghana being the second nation in Africa after Ivory Coast, growing cocoa in the world, the second biggest cocoa producer in the world. And guess what? You're looking into the shelves, and there are the Nestle's and the Cadbury's and everyone else. And there are about 8 different cocoa and chocolate brands, but maybe one is Ghana, made in Ghana. So look, this is my passion. So once I get started, I cannot stop. But the point really here is to everyone, the opportunity is plenty. Important is that you take a demand-driven approach. You have a look locally. What are the challenges? What are the gaps? What are the needs? And how can I come in to fit those, to meet those? Don't come in just randomly with your ideas and your passion. Passion is important, but it should also be driven by the demand and the needs. And Africa has so many problems. It's waiting for you to help solve them. Oh, Sister Yaa, did I talk too much?
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, guys. So I know Dr. Harnet, she always come with it. So she has given you all a lot to think about. Wait, somebody, I'm gonna see this one last question. Somebody's ask her about the air conditioning industry in Africa. Do you know anything about air conditioning? I don't know.
Right. Well, it's of course important when there's a lot of heat. The thing is, air conditioning, number one, very often goes off if electricity goes off. And then what you will hear is the noise of a generator, or you stay in the heat. I've experienced that as well. There's no generator, then you sweat. Oh, there's a generator. In any case, the cost, the electricity cost, the generator cost, and very important, the environmental cost, because that is a increasing issue for Africa. Climate change, the environmental cost is huge. And therefore, I think there's a lot that, where people can come in to look for solutions that help to mitigate climate change and that are sustainable, such as a solar solution or a new technology. I think that would be a great solution.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. So yes, guys, we got to let Dr. Harnet go. We already had agreed upon amount of time that she had, but we want to thank her so much. This has been a very informative, information-packed interview, giving y'all some things to think about. And how to think about things differently. And every time I listen to her, I have little light bulbs be going off. Oh man, that's a good idea. That's good. So, don't be surprised if you all see me in the grocery stores in Ghana taking pictures and running around talking to store managers, because I'm like, okay, I didn't think about that. So now, definitely going to be doing that. Thank you so much. And if anybody wants to get in touch with her or take her class, like I said, she does have also some free classes that she offers. Or if you want to become a member of the African Jumpstart team as well with the membership, please visit her website, africanjumpstart.com, and visit her YouTube channel. She puts a lot of good information out also on her YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube and Google Dr. Harnet. Thank you so much, Dr. Harnet, and hopefully we get to have you grace us again in the near future with your presence. And I look forward to coming on your platform as well.
Absolutely. It's a deal, Sister Yaa. Thank you so much. I also want to appreciate everything you do. You put a lot of hope in a lot of people. And I'm so happy to see that, those of us who can assist, support, that we're building a network and we can complement each other and really make things happen. And yeah, for everyone else who's been joining, thank you so much. And guess what? Africa is the future, you know, it's the giant rising, and you better get
Yes.
in now or you will miss out. So it's an amazing time to start building in Africa. Thank you so much, Sister Yaa, and everyone.
Thank you. All right. Thank you. All right. Take care. Yes, Dr. Harnet is absolutely right. Africa is the future. Africa is where it is. And I've been saying it. Y'all been hearing me saying it. So let's get it out to the road. We don't want everybody out. We want to go contribute to the growth and economic development of our motherland, as well as it will help us, and we want to help our people. So that being said, if you haven't already liked this, please do. Please share. Please subscribe. We reached 1,000 subscribers finally. It took the channel to go. We have to reach 1,000 subscribers a long time ago. We just reached 1,000 subscribers. So I'm very happy about that. Thank you all for tuning in, and we will see you. The exit lines will be coming back on June 19th, June 10th. So please join us for this week, Juneteenth. Y'all take care. Love you all. Goodbye. Peace. Bye. Oh, they say I'm breaking up, but it's the end now. Y'all gonna have to catch the replay. I don't know why it's not going on.